Well, hello, hello, Theresa Strong, Bel Inizio. I am so glad you are joining us on Discover Magnificent You Chat. It is really, really an honor. So great. Let's get into it. Your biggest obstacle, be it in your life or your business, because sometimes it's one and the same. What has been your biggest obstacle? How did you get over it?
My biggest obstacle in my life was the period in my life when my husband died of brain cancer and the company I was working for went bankrupt. And the beauty that eventually came out of that was the nonprofit Bel Inizio. But the way I immediately moved through that time period as best as I could was through exercise, was through walking and running and bike riding. Because when I get out and exercise, one of two things happens. Either I think about what's going on and I start getting clarification, or I just veg and that allows my mind to clear. So either way, by being outside and moving my body, it helps me move through my past biggest challenge, but also the day-to-day challenges we all have now.
And isn't that interesting? Because I believe we are our business. It's not just like there's a business and here we're somebody different. And Bel Inizio, of course, does focus in on, if you want to explain it to everybody a little bit more.
Sure. Our mission is to build self-confidence through fitness and nutrition to women that are disadvantaged, that have made bad choices, bad things happen to them. They're survivors of sex trafficking, maybe in recovery from drugs, alcohol, or different kinds of abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and women that have grown up in poverty and have taken the wrong path through crime. And all of them that we work with in our program are looking for their own beautiful beginning, which is what Bel Inizio means.
And isn't that interesting? Because my company is Discover Magnificent You, because getting rid of the negative noise in our heads, and you're getting rid of a lot of negative noise around a lot of other things, but we both are for the same purpose of finding that beauty within.
That's exactly right. Right.
Interesting. And how do you get in touch though with these people that get you in touch with women that have survived trafficking or that are in recovery? I mean, how do people know about you?
Well, we reach out to different agencies. Sometimes an agency will reach out to us, but we do not get our clients by reaching out to individual women that come in. We will have a program at Santa Maria Hostel or the Women's Home or Bridget's Hope, Dress for Success, Star of Hope, etc. And the women are in those locations and are usually recommended to us to join into our program. So they're all living, in most cases, at a set location, like a shelter, like a transitional housing organization.
Have you found, I noticed that the trafficking is rather recent, is that correct?
In Houston, relatively recently, probably for at least the past decade, we've been a hub, but it is getting higher and higher profile. But that also means that more and more resources are being thrown at being targeted at helping the women that are in these horrible situations.
Well, that is really something. We all can work with different niches. Say this. What made you decide on this particular niche?
When I was going through my most difficult time, I was doing a lot of volunteering in the homeless community and realized that people that were on the fringes of homelessness could benefit from confidence building, self-esteem building, life skills development. And that's where we started working at first, were people that are in temporary housing. But as we refined our approach, we realized that our methods and my skill set were more targeted toward women, and in particular women that had a real history, a real background of hard stuff happen. Our clients, you know, they're not angels and they've made big mistakes, but they come from broken families, families where their mothers were in prostitution, their dads were in prison, where drugs were the norm, where physical assault was not uncommon, where the goal of a life was to have a lot of babies and not get an education. And the more we looked into the research and the more we looked into that particular client base, the bigger difference we felt we could make.
Wow. I mean, that's because it really takes a certain kind of personality to work with all different kinds of people where we're comfortable. Was there ever anything in your background where you had this? I mean, you volunteer, but I mean, growing up, or maybe as a young girl, or in your 20s, that you had any experience that maybe also led you to this in some way?
As you said, I was a very active volunteer. I mean, from when I was a little kid, my parents would take us to volunteer. I did not have any personal experience with abuse, drug addiction, criminal behavior. It's just a marginalized group that I've always felt drawn to.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that it takes patience and just really putting that heart out there. I have done volunteer work in shelters and I've done volunteer work. Actually, when I was 16, we had this program called Wing Spread, which meant that I'm from outside Chicago and I was from a suburb, and we get with the kids that are in the projects, and we actually got to know one another. And it was groundbreaking at the time. We're talking about, oh my gosh, 60s. Yeah. And it was considered very groundbreaking because we were communicating finally. And what I'm hearing is that there's this communication that you're having, that you're giving this woman hope, as well as letting them see what another side, how to live another way, perhaps, that might benefit them. And I know that I learned so much from, both of us learned from one each other equally. It was a very equal deal. And I came away, well, for one thing, I asked my parents why we can't live over a bar, I said, "Can't we just move from Highland Park and move over a bar in Chicago? They have so much activity." Of course, my parents said, "No, I don't think we're going to be." But I'm sure that you had different experiences in that way. And what is so wonderful is that there is hope, and we can always reinvent ourselves.
Yes.
And I think sometimes when we lose the way, no matter where we are, no matter what our circumstances, is when our spirit is lost. And what I'm hearing is that you give that spirit back, that's a
We help women find their spirit again.
Yeah, and it is so magnificent. And how about some of the women? Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate because I assume some of the women you said have made choices. I assume that maybe they broke the law, prostitution, things like that. And I have also heard the argument of, okay, we all have bad backgrounds, you made bad choices, so why should we care? This is what an argument that I've heard, like when people say they break the law, but they were abused, they were this and that. Yeah, but they broke the law, tough luck. How would you speak to someone like that?
I would begin by taking a deep breath. And the way I think of this sometimes is that my undergraduate degree came from Sam Houston State University. Fine university, but whatever. It's a state school, right? It's just an okay school. And if someone said to me, well, why didn't you go to Harvard? Why didn't you go to Princeton? Why didn't you try to go to Yale? I would honestly have to say, never occurred to me. How could I get in Yale? I'm a little kid from a suburb outside of Chicago at the time. I don't know how to do that. Those people are too smart for me. Now, my background is my father was the first person in our entire family forever to go to college.
Wow.
And I was his first kid to go to college. So we don't have a legacy of brilliance in education. I was practically groundbreaking myself by going to Sam Houston. Okay. So asking me to go to Harvard, it's way out there. We have women that if you say to them, why didn't you graduate from high school? They say, how could I graduate from high school? Nobody in my family's ever graduated from high school. Why would I graduate from high school? I don't know how to go to high school. Their frame of reference is so different than ours is. Their frame of reference is living in poverty where everyone they know steals or does drugs and education isn't valued. And they're having babies because that's what they can do when they're 14 and 15. If someone looks at me, Theresa Strong, and says, I can't believe you stole money and now you want me to feel sorry for you, you know what? You're exactly right, because I should have known better. But people are not born with the same moral compass, with the same advantages you and I do. And what they did is wrong, and they have paid the price. But they need our compassion, and they need our love and our guidance, and we need to be mentors to show them that they can get a GED, that they can go to Lone Star, just like someone maybe could have showed me I could have gone to Harvard. It's all relative to where we come from.
Yes. Are you familiar with, is her name Ruby Payne? The reason, are you familiar with her?
Yes.
Okay, because we had to study that in teaching. I taught at Title I schools, and for those of you who aren't familiar, they're basically poverty level. Most of the people are at poverty level. And it was a very different culture, as she had explained, and she did this research for many, many years, so those of you who are not familiar with her. And it's this, at the time, it was very groundbreaking about how different economic classes view money and view their lifestyles. And it was actually quite helpful for me to understand when I was working in various schools. Most of the time, I have to be honest with you, I forgot about it because they're kids. I mean, I just kind of looked at them like kids are kids are kids. And perhaps that was, it was just, it worked. I mean, I don't know what to say. And of course, I was sensitive to the family's background. But I will say that there is something to be said about kind of going into another culture and learning about it as you have, and to really understand as you have, because there is a difference of looking at things.
Yeah.
And, you know, the ones that were at our school, a lot of them were like, yeah, some people would grumble because they say, well, they have a big screen TV. They've got the expensive tennis shoes, because the way they looked at money was, we have money? Hurry, spend it before it goes away.
That's right.
And so it was a different philosophy, a different, and if we could be, you know, stretch that out more to each other, even our differences now politically and now the way things are going, because there might be a common ground, as you have found with these women, because these women are success stories. They're success. Well, no, because they're willing to step in the door, regardless how they get
Right.
it. The fact that they have the courage enough to even step into a program that you are willing to do, I think would take a heck of a lot of courage.
Nice.
And even though you're welcoming and everything, I think that it would have to come from them. So I would applaud them even for stepping in the door.
Well, I agree with you completely.
What would you like to see happen? What kind of experience, what would you like to see the general public or even the world, what kind of message would you like? Because your organization is, I don't know. I guess I'm just going to throw the question to you, because see how you respond.
What so many of us have the privilege of knowing, of experiencing, is that we can make a commitment and keep it. We can set a goal and achieve it. You have made a commitment to give people the opportunity to be involved in these chats, and I made a commitment to show up and be part of it. And that's not really a stretch for either of us. But when you come from a background where making a commitment or achieving a goal it's just not what happens at all. That is the first step in moving toward a foundation for the future. And that is what we give these women. When you look at Bel Inizio, when you look at our clients, look at it through the lens of people that are really willing to take the first step and don't know how. You know, if you go to our website, if you read our client stories, you can see women taking a baby step to an amazing, bright future. And it's not all Bel Inizio, but we're giving them a real important piece of the pie. Have mercy and compassion, and your eyes will open to the opportunities.
And I'll tell you, for those of you who haven't read, I went to a website. It is so inspiring. And there's some videos and about these girls that never did exercise. And you have a 5K run. Am I saying it right?
Yes.
Yes, and the girls prepare, but it's more than just the run and getting sweaty. It's the whole thing, like Teresa's saying. I mean, it's just an amazing like makeover inside out. And with these girls, on the videos, it's just so heartwarming to see what can be done. So, how do you get your money?
We have some foundations that support us. We write grants, and under normal circumstances, we have two main events a year, a Fiesta and a 5K. And in the times of COVID now, it's certainly not a given that either one of those are going to happen. So that makes it a little bit tougher. We love corporate sponsors to sponsor our groups. That helps to get our women the shoes, the fruit, the team t-shirts, the education that they need. And we love individual donors, in particular recurring donors. When someone signs up to be a $20 a month, a $30 a month recurring donor for us, it gives us a cash flow we can count on. And that is our biggest dream, is to build recurring donors, and our biggest gratitude.
Yeah, that is. What do you think that your husband would be saying if he saw you now? What do you think he'd say to you?
He would say something he always used to say to me. He would always say, "You done good, girl." That was his phrase. "You done good, girl."
Done good. That is that's heartwarming. That's so cool.
Thank you.
That might be a quote in itself. Do you have other quotes you'd like to share by any chance that you could?
I have a quote that I keep on the wall in my office, and it says, it's not a quote, it's a Bible verse. "For know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord." And that's out of Jeremiah. And that keeps me grounded when everything's appearing to go down the toilet, when it's just things are not going well. I rely on my faith to keep going. But another quote that I think about all the time, and it's by Robert Louis Stevenson, and I'm going to read it so I don't mess it up. "Don't judge each day by the harvest that you reap, but by the seeds that you plant." And so many of us, obviously yourself included, every day we don't have big successes. We have to play the long game, right? We have to do what we're doing today and hope that the flower blooms down the road. And so Bel Inizio spends a lot of time planting seeds and knowing the harvest will come for our women later on.
Well said, and that could apply to all of us.
It could indeed.
Sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes they say there's that H in the hallway. The past. It's not quite the past. The future is going to be okay, but it's H in the hallway. And that's a great quote to get many of us, myself included, through in those times.
Absolutely.
Wow. Thank you so much for being with us. Is there any last comment, anything you'd like to share before we close?
Oh, I would just like to take a minute to thank you for all that you're doing.
Yeah.
I am honored to be part of your chats. I've seen your other chats. You're just interacting with so many amazing women, and you're changing lives day by day too. So thank you, Jody.
Oh, thank you so much. That actually is my mission of the chats. It's to connect lives and heal hearts. So
Love that.
thank you. That's why I'm so devoted to this. I just I believe it because I see people that have never been on camera, and I'm not exactly, I'm not a movie star. I'm just everyday person, that, but never. I cannot tell you the change I've seen when I say, hey, just go on. I mean, it's not, this isn't like 60 Minutes, guys. It's a conversation, and we're here to help one another. That's all, that's what it is. This is how we start, and hopefully this will go all over, because I think we all can be one big community and help one another. And I've seen the change, though. I've seen that. And it doesn't matter if they've had their own business for 10 years, 5 years, if they don't, doesn't matter. I see the confidence, because they're like, well, what does this have to do with my business? And then once they start sharing, it's just really amazing what I've been fortunate enough to see. And thank you, I will keep that.
Please do.
Yeah.